Welcome back to another Design League playthrough, and this one's from Chez, or I'm assuming we're not French, but it could be Chez, I guess. And looks like we're in countryside, which is one of my favourite themes. I think it gets a great look with how the terrain browns out, so you can see it there. Super low lighting. There's a cool little vineyard here. That must have taken a little while. Oh yeah, it must have taken ages. But works really well on one of the par 3s. We've got some sunken oak trees, which is a trick I've used a lot. Lighting looks a little low for me, but that's a tough balance to find. And we got a floating clubhouse up here, which it doesn't bother me at all. Like, we're looking at it from this side, and it looks good. So yeah, let's leap in and give this one a go. It looks interesting. All right, first off, if I'm honest, I don't love the little circular tees. I think generally, where are we? They're quite brash, and I'm not sure they totally fit with the rest of the course. Where you got kind of rugged and like overgrown sort of planting, and the fairways are winding in and out. If we're going with the circle tees, that to me signifies like a very well manicured desert step style course. Now, first green. Got a big green. I'd suggest your green is probably a bit too big. If you're splining around it, I'd go for around about 95. I would guess off the top of my head this is around 115 or so, which can work, but you need some really bold slopes, which, I mean, this one has one here. You'd need something like that in the middle at least, because another good way of working out your greens is how many pins could you put on here. I'd say you're looking at one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, so you've got about 6. Generally, and could potentially put more in that middle section. And if you're looking at, you want 4 pretty distinct pin positions, or like areas of the green where you might pin, even if those pins are subtly different. So we've got undulations, which I am all for. I think driver is definitely risky because you're pinching the fairway nicely by where you've cut it. I think your spline work could be cleaned up a little bit here, and the same with your transitions. But I like the idea of, well, you can lay up here and you're hitting over that little ravine towards the green, or you can bomb driver, and if you stop it short you get a really good angle into the green. Again, I think size your green right and that works really nicely. Or we can hit 3-wood and kind of do the best of both. But then there's this fall off here which works nicely. I'd say your sculpting's a bit of a work in progress, and that's normal. Like, it takes a little while, so bunkers are coming maybe a little bit too high up. Generally, you're trying to do all the right things with how you're sculpting bunkers. If you pull the surface away so that like the top of the hill is here and the bunker is not at the top, so the bunker's a little bit below, that'll look so much better. And then this one as well, it's sitting in the land a little bit awkwardly. Bunkers tend to take people a long time to figure out, or at least like usually 2 or so courses. I think partial 5-wood might be the play for me today, which hopefully gets us to the fat of the fairway, leaves a full wedge. Beautiful. And I do like the green slopes you've got. I just think this area is a little bit big. I probably would put this empty space needs something, I would suggest as well, whether it's planting or another bunker, because the green feels just a little disconnected from the rest of the hole. I do like the planting you've done behind. Sunken oak trees work really well. Got the partial again. Go on, be the right club. It's a little short. And greens at 167 is a good speed. Again, it's been a common theme with this contest that we've had a lot of gentle openers where you can kind of choose whether to hit driver or not. It might get you into more trouble. So same kind of with the second one, I feel like driver is basically not an option due to where you've put the bunker. I'm sure you can sneak it through there, but with the way the land is sloping and this big bump, it would feel more by luck than judgment. I'd love to see you open up the fairway and bring it around here so that I can think about taking driver or 3-wood, but bring the water a bit more into play. Whereas, as is, I think, hitting 3-wood is probably the play. Generally, I think you're starting your fairways a little bit too far away. I prefer to see them starting around about here, because that gives a huge amount of opportunities for layups. I also would like to see the layup area a little bit wider, like maybe about to there, if you're looking at the edge of the reticle, like there for an even a little bit wider. This still feels like a poor tempo on a layup and I'm missing, whereas I'd like to see for a layup zone you can allow for a bit of a miss hit. Whereas driver, I think you're pinching generally pretty adequately. Oh, we've gone for some big slopes on this one, and this green's about right in terms of your sloping. I'd argue maybe this slope is a little bit severe. 3 feet, it's probably okay. Like that's the extreme of what I'd go to on a green. I like the raised green. We haven't, given that we're playing down to up, works nicely. That's not a good shot, and we're going to miss that green by quite a way. I enjoyed that green though. Like maybe that little tier in the front left might be a little bit tough to hold, but all good. This is a good look. You'll notice though when we're zooming out, I don't know to what extent some of these grasses are autogen or not. Excuse me. I'm going to presume some of them are due to how they are sitting. Same with the bushes, because you'll notice that some of them draw differently to others. So like when we zip back to the tee, we can still see these ones, which can leave it feeling a little bit messy. I think the same with some of this planting here. Please take no offence when I say it looks like it's autogen, just because it doesn't look like that's where you'd want to plant. I think if you were to plant some bushes down here as well, I think that would really help for framing, and just there's a lot of empty space that I'd like to see. Not necessarily totally covered up, but planted like a bit more deliberately, should we say. I'm not a huge fan of the pin, just because if I do manage to take it over this slope, it's then falling down into this little bowl here. It feels like you're requiring the absolute perfect shot, whereas that little bowl doesn't make much sense how everything's going to fall into it. Big slope here I'm happy with, that works well. I'd rather it's not running off into, like, this wasn't the high bit. I generally think the high point in your green, if it's going to flow into the green, should be over the edge, so that it's all flowing in rather than you have a little spine which kicks some balls off and some not. It's a dreadful shot. Yeah, I think kind of the same. Yeah, I'd want you to ask yourself when you're playtesting this, like, did I really want that ball to roll off or not? I think with that one, maybe not. But generally, I think it plays a bit more interestingly if you can try to keep them on the green, with some exceptions, of course. Go on, make it up the slope. It's not too bad, is it? That's an awful putt. Got away with it. I think that green was close. It's just the odd slopes that don't quite make sense. Yeah, this one's a little bit of a casualty of the very low lighting, in that you just can't really see that much of where you're going, and it's not quite drivable. Yeah, really embracing the big slopes. I think maybe a little severe on this green again, and I'm personally just not a fan really of greens dunking you into heavy rough. Just trying to work out why it's all gone so black here. Wonder whether you've buried too many trees or things, because usually that's what happens. Might be a product of the lighting as well. I think once again driver is not the play. Could be good. It's not too bad. Water planting's nice. I do like the green side. I might like it a little bit more if you'd shunted it this way and brought the water in a touch more. Bunkering short of the green works. Oh, awful, awful part. And that's where it becomes a slope that we don't really like, because now we're chipping out of light rough from something that's barely trickled past. It wasn't. Don't get me wrong, it was not a good part, but to be punished by having to chip that, I feel is a bit much. Okay, 2 to go. Let's see what we've got. Bit more of a dog leg. Yeah, I guess the disconnected green makes sense. I will say at this point that you've definitely overprotected driver off the tee with short holes. By all means have this many short holes, but I wouldn't cut off driver on every single one of them. And I mean, it gets to the point where I'm just playing a partial because I'd like to hit driver rather than lay up on a 3-wood again. Let's see how that does. Oh, a little much. Yeah, I think once again with green slopes, we've got some oddities. So you've lowered the land, I would guess, here to create this big red slope, but what that means is the pin's flowing down and this is also flowing down, and it just doesn't. Think about how the land is working. If it's generally going from high here to low here, you can always see the green slopes generally go this way rather than dropping into this sort of puddle. Particularly if you imagine how this looks. I'll see if I can get a ground eye on it. So we're dipping down and then going back up and then going really hard down. It just doesn't quite work. In the other area I'd probably change is, as with the last green, you've got some areas where green slopes are just going to dunk you straight off the green. And if you're ending up here, that's going to feel a bit of a harsh punishment. Not, again, like runoffs can work really well when they're planned, and generally I'd be looking for runoffs to put you in fairway rather than rough. I think they work well there. Think about Pinehurst and how the runoffs there work, and Augusta. Okay, this one we can hit driver on. And I like going down into the valley. I think this is one of the most cohesive green. This is the most cohesive green yet. This one's good. Let's see. Bunker sculpting has definitely gotten better as we've gone on. This one's one of the best ones you've done. Let's go find it. Again, shame that I've taken, well, as with so many of these playthroughs, par 5s just tend to take things out of hand. It's gone very dark once again around here, which is kind of hurting the visual of what actually is going on behind the screen. I think you've buried too many trees, and I think that just the lighting is super low. Yeah, I mean, you can't even tell that there's light rough around the back of the green. Right, up 2 feet. Well, this is quite a big part. Not too disappointed with that. I'm disappointed with that one. Annoying. So yeah, I mean, lots of stuff to like. I think just think about strategically variety. When lots of your par 4s are playing that short and we're having a wedge into every single one, and you're basically taking driver out of hand, that can get a little bit old. It's a really nice technique and it worked really well with, I'd say, 2 of the par 4s. It's when you're doing it for 4 of them, then it gets a bit overused, I would say. What else would I add? Yeah, I think lighting was one. Just working out areas you want to plant. There are bits of it that worked really nicely. Green slopes mostly there. Just some of those slopes around the edges weren't I guess you'll kind of watch me play it and work out whether it plays how you want it to. But as ever, good luck in the contest, and yeah, keep entering, keep going for more. See you later.